Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are on a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to ARN. And of course, we can't do it without the founder of the Four Horsemen, the creator of the Spine Buster. He is AA, the enforcer, Arn Anderson. Arn, how are you, man?
Mr. Thompson, I'm outstanding. Yourself?
Man, better than I deserve. So excited. You know, Thanksgiving's in the rearview mirror. Here we are in our march towards Christmas. The most wonderful time of the year to be on the Arn Show here. And of course, we're talking about all things 1986. Do you remember if you had a good Christmas in 1986? Can you remember that far back about Christmas?
Absolutely, because we bought a house in 86.
That's right.
First one, very modest, $74,900 was the price.
Wow, that's awesome.
3-bedroom, 2-bath, had it was 5 years old. So still the fireplace had never been used.
Wow.
So for me, on my income and my state of mind and the fact that I was having to buy everything. I went to Charlotte with nothing, basically, a Toyota Corolla. That's about it. Was a few clothes in the back. I was starting to accumulate some stuff. And buying a house was a big deal for us. So we had an awesome Christmas that year.
Was that in Charlotte?
That was one street over from Bobby Eaton.
It's amazing to think about what that house is probably worth now. You know, just using the inflation calculator, $74,900 in 86 is $189,000 today. But that house, wherever it is there in Charlotte, it's worth probably 6 or 7 or 8 or something silly times what you paid for it, right?
I don't know. I do not know what it's worth. I know this. We had great neighbors. We were on a cul-de-sac, and
wait, is that your house with that famous photo in the cul-de-sac? Is that your house in the background?
Which famous?
You know, the one where you got the nut hugger shorts on and everybody's got the belt.
Oh, no, that's at the bottom of Rick's driveway, and it'd never be nut hugger. Rewind that.
You knew exactly what shorts I was talking about. The most infamous shorts in the history of Arn Anderson.
I should have taken better care of my wardrobe and what I was wearing, because there are several pictures that are just horrifying out there. This being one of them that you're talking about, but no, that was at the bottom of Rick's driveway.
Well, you said cul-de-sac, and it made me think maybe that's where it was, because I couldn't imagine you guys just really posing like that in the middle of the street. It had to be a cul-de-sac. But I do remember now Megan telling me once upon a time, you could see in the garage in the background, hey, that was my 4-wheeler. So it makes sense that was Rick's house. But when you said cul-de-sac, I thought, hey, maybe that's the source of that old photo. Is that the one you hate the most? I've seen that other one that I sent to you and Brock a year or two ago, where you were leaving the arena and you had on the
the little shorts and flip flops and a Halliburton and a jacket, which was just a look and a half.
I had to be barreling out the back door, driving straight home. That had to be a town. I think it was just by going the ramp and the background, the little bit that you can see, it looked like it might have been Dorton Arena.
Mm.
And I was going to barrel out the door and drive straight home. No, because Brock asked me, he says, were you planning on making a store stop or getting gas or anything in that get up? I kind of doubt it.
I hope personally you made all your store stops in little Umbros, no shirt, flip flops, sunglasses, and a Halliburton. Just, getting a can of Skull and
no dipping, no worm dirt for the kid. Thank you very much.
Did you ever smoke cigarettes back in the day? Did you
no disrespect. Well, yeah. I mean, my granny, I have to say it, the only negative in her entire life that I can say, bless her heart, and it ended up killing her, was she was a heavy smoker.
Yeah.
And she smoked, I think, Paul Malls.
The good old days right there, boy. That's old school.
Yeah, buddy. And I used to tell her, God, Granny, that stinks. And now we didn't have no air conditioning, as we know. So you're in that sealed up hot house with that cigarette smoke. It was
awful.
It sucked.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't smoke. I didn't dip. That was just a couple that I never got around to, thank God.
Well, we're getting around to August of 1986. And as a reminder, we're coming off the heels of the biggest Great American Bash tour ever. Of course, in 85, it was really just a one show sort of deal. But we got 13 major shows here in 1986 called the Great American Bash. And we're even going to hit up San Antonio on August 1st. We had Wahoo and Tully Blanchard in action. Of course, you had to do something with Magnum and Nikita if you're in Texas, and they did a Texas death match. But what I really liked about August 2nd is the 605 show featured an opening shot of David Crockett in an empty Fulton County Stadium. And he's talking about the last of the Great American Bash tour shows, because we know that you guys are going to have the big show that night, August 2nd, 1986. There's 12,000 in attendance. This is the very last stop on the Great American Bash tour. All kids tickets bought that day were just $5. The Road Warriors, Ricky and Robert, they're all going to sign autographs before the show. And we've got Joe Ely, Delbert McClinton, and Ricky Morton in concert, with the main event being Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair in a cage. What do you remember as a little kid growing up in Georgia? You grew up watching the Braves, and now you're on their field wrestling. What a cool thing this must have been for you.
Yeah, you're not kidding. It's awesome. That goes back to, one of my favorite things is like these signings and stuff, or just talking to people in general when they come up and they say, hey, I used to go and, either to live events or whatever it may be, or sit and watch at 605 on Saturday with my grandfather or my father or whatever. I used to watch wrestling and all that stuff. I used to sit in the floor at my granny's. My granddaddy had one of those big 9-band radios when they first came out. I mean, the big ones, like a boom box, but it was just a radio, and he could pick up the Braves games. This was before they were on TBS all the time. This was when I was a kid. And I would just sit there and listen to that radio and listen to the Braves. And it was awesome. Now I'm walking around in Braves Stadium, and there's the Braves locker room and all that stuff. It was really, really cool. Really was.
Well, I hope everybody gets an opportunity to go watch some of these clips. We're going to have some of these clips of what's going on for you in August of 1986 over at the ARN Show on Twitter. But man, I just love that shot of David Crockett in the empty Fulton County Stadium, with the dugout right behind him. But you guys were all over TV that day. This is August 2nd. Of course, that's a Saturday, 1986. But we've got a promo from Worldwide from the Andersons that we want to take a listen to right now.
The rock and roll chants from the people around here. This is what I've had to put up with. Now you guys have got to put up with it, but I'm on your side. Rock and roll is dead.
Well, you know, it's very easy, Jim Cornette, for us to come out here and hang our heads just a little bit. But the bottom line is, when you're the four horsemen, you don't look at the past. Dusty Rhodes, you're to be congratulated because you did something that nobody on the face of this earth believes you could do. But the one thing you got to remember, Dusty, is all those people that have befriended you, all your stooges, Magnum, Rock and Roll Express, Wahoo McDaniels, Ronnie Garvin, Animal, Hawk, all the individuals that softened Ric Flair up so you could catch him on a bad night, on one fatigue night in Greensboro Coliseum and pull it off. Those are the guys that all of a sudden are not going to be gunning for Ric Flair. They're going to be gunning for you, Dusty. Now you're in the hot seat. Think about this, Rhodes. All those people that are saying, great job, Dusty, great job. That's the people that lay in the bed awake at night. They're no longer your friends. All they're asking for is their title shot. We're going to find out now, Dusty, who your friends really are. All that aside, Rock and Roll Express, Summer Sizzler Tour, don't worry about the beauty contest. Just worry about getting in the ring with a Minnesota Wrecking Crew.
True words have never been spoken. Let's go to the ring.
Man, you did all the heavy lifting there. Just let Ole be in the Robert Gibson position. What are you thinking of your maturation process as a promo? It feels like you're getting stronger and stronger every single week, dude.
More confident.
Yeah.
Being able to outline what I want to say in my head without memorizing anything, but basically just let it flow. And, promos are something that you have to be confident about, and it needs to come from your gut and from your heart. It can't be something that somebody wrote on a piece of paper and handed you to memorize.
I feel strongly that saving money is important. You know, if it's not something we worry about now, boy, we are really going to worry about it later. And I want to help you get out of debt faster and do it with cheaper monthly payments. I'm talking to you if you're in a 30-year loan. Now is the time to take years off of your loan. We're routinely helping our listeners cut 5, 10, even 15 years off their loan. And you can do this without perfect credit with no money out of pocket. You've just got to start at savewithconrad.com.
And it has never worked and never will work. It's got to be about, you got to be familiar with the subject matter, feel it, believe it, live it, and then you can talk about it.
We also want to play a clip from that same weekend, August 2nd. This is a localized promo from Pro, which was the syndicated show for Jim Crockett Promotions. Take a listen.
Rhodes, the world champion, defends against Nature Boy Ric Flair, the former champion. Here's the world TV champion, Arn Anderson, defending against Magnum TA in Raleigh.
Tony, to your knowledge, has there ever been a tie in professional wrestling?
Tie?
A tie.
There's been a couple draws.
I'm talking about a tie.
No tie.
No ties. Okay, where the World Television Championship is determined, I do not have to beat you, Magnum. You have to beat me, and you have to beat me in a 20-minute time period. Now, on paper, this matchup would seem 50-50, fair. Even Steven, you couldn't call the shot. But the bottom line is I'm living with a little bit of an advantage here, because in those encounters with Nikita Koloff, you've been softened up just a little bit. And also, when you're lacing those boots up good and tight, I think you're going to be thinking about that fateful night in Atlanta, Georgia, when I was on top of you, scrubbing your face in the carpet. That's got to get you just a little PO'd, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you'll go off just a little bit early, lose your cool. When you do that, that's when I slip in for the victory. You're coming for my meal ticket in the Dorton Arena.
World Tag Team title matches, the midnight.
So there you go. It's even promoting Wednesday, August 13th, 8:15 p.m., Dorton Arena, Raleigh, North Carolina. For tickets, the box office opens at 12 noon. And then they give the phone number where you can call and order tickets, I suppose. But I like that, man. You know, you sort of turn the tables in the promo to where you're saying, hey, I have the advantage. I don't have to beat you. You have to beat me if you want this. And you've got to do it in a certain amount of time. It feels like you're getting your feet under you as television champion when it comes to these promos.
Well, it was a very real thing. I didn't have to beat anybody. All I had to do was survive the time limit. And that made for a very exciting, when you had a couple of guys that had a pretty decent gas tank on them, that last 3 or 4 minutes, you could make very, very exciting with me getting false finished, false finish, false finish, false finish. That's got to be it. But man, at the end of a 20-minute match with a guy like Magnum, who's young and in shape and good cardio, it was a challenge. And I loved challenges back then. It made for a very exciting scenario that you couldn't get with any other title match. It was just the TV title that those steps were on, which made it special.
We should mention that you're really going to start turning the volume up when it comes to tag action. We know that at the end of the year, you're going to wind up locked in a cage with the Rock and Roll Express for Starrcade. And they are the hottest babyface tag team at this point, maybe in the history of wrestling. And we really start turning the volume up on this towards the end of this Great American Bash Tour. And a lot of it gets kicked off here on Pro. This is August 2nd. There's a little bit of a confrontation. Let's take a listen.
Fans here of the Rock and Roll Express. Ricky, Robert, you and the Andersons, you two are the top contenders for the World Tag Team Championship, and the Andersons still up there in the ring.
That's right, Bob. You know, the talk around the country is going around now for the #1 contender.
And they keep calling for you.
The NWA. That's all right. We don't bother them right now, brother, because we got something on our mind. That's about putting those world titles on our waist. Like I said earlier, everybody's talking about the #1 contender. But you see, we figure that we are the #1 contender because we figure that we are the NWA World Tag Team Champions. We're just waiting for the opportunity to rise, to get a hold of Jimmy Cornette in the Midnight Express, to show him what it's all about. And you see those guys up there in the ring up there, they're trying to get us to come up here. But what we got on our mind right now, what we got on our mind, brothers, don't lose our cool, because we are going to be the next NWA World Tag Team Champions. What about it?
Hey, like you said, we're all going to be the next NWA World Tag Team Champions. You know, the Andersons, they are a very, very tough team. Look at them, Ricky. They're taunting us. I guess they want some of the rock and roll, huh?
Brother, sit up there and call for us.
So we're seeing you calling them to the ring.
Let me tell you something, Bob. We're going to finish this. We're going to find out right now who's the #1 contender for the NWA World.
Hey, and there they go. The Rock and Roll is going to the ring. The Andersons get calling them into the ring.
Do you hear the girls? Listen to that.
Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, Rock and Roll.
Oh, God, Joe.
Rolling into the ring. And look at the Andersons waiting on them, really going to work on them right here. They caught the Rock and Roll as they went into the ring, and ARN and Ole were ready for them. They pounced on them even before they were able to get to their feet. And all four of them still going at it in the ring. Here come the Rock and Roll back. And we only have seconds left in the program, fans. We're going to be leaving the air in just a moment as they continue to go at it. All four in the ring, the Rock and Roll and the Minnesota Wrecking Crew. We'll see you next week, fans. So long.
What a hot way to finish the show. Years later, we would see almost every Nitro leave the air that way. A little bit of physicality, but the syndicated shows, you know, a lot of TV back then, that's really not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to give you great matches. We're trying to essentially give you a commercial for the great match you can see in your local area. Get your tickets now, blah, 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 right?
Television, straightforward, was to drive live event sales. That's why you didn't beat all your top guys. You didn't match up all your top guys every week on TV. Then what was special about going to a live event? Those were supposed to be matches that you couldn't see on TV, which was fair. You know, you just, because you didn't have enough time to tell every story that you had going on within the company on a given TV, you could just get little pieces, fragments of the story and move it forward. But it was important every week to have that common thread and keep reminding the audience, okay, who's fighting who and why.
The fans really got to see what was going on that day. Of course, you're sitting at home watching the syndicated show. You saw that to go off the air. The Rock and Roll Express were going toe to toe with the Andersons. Well, if you showed up at Fulton County Stadium, like 12,000 fans did, You saw Ricky and Robert take on Ole and Arn in a bunkhouse match. We don't hear a lot about the rock and rolls in a bunkhouse match. It is a different style of match. What do you remember of a bunkhouse match here at Fulton County with Ricky and Robert?
Well, right off the get-go, it would favor the Andersons, I would think. We got no problem picking up any piece of movable furniture and hitting you with it. Not an issue. That's not their style. They were a great tag team. They used quick tags, double teams within the 5 count, and all the legal things that you can do as a team, they did. All the illegal things you can do as a team, we were more than happy to do. So we felt like we were going to have an advantage and no qualms about it. We're not worried about public opinion, and it's all within the rules anyway if it's a bunkhouse match. So we were feeling pretty good about it.
The next day, of course, we're back doing a TV taping. August 3rd, we see Ole and Arn take on the Mulkey brothers in Greenville. And then on the 9th, we're back doing TV again. It's a 90-minute episode, and you're going to be involved here. And I think we've got a clip from that. Let's take a listen here. This is from August 9th. And the Andersons are they're looking to do something with the rock and rolls. Let's take a listen.
Rock and roll express, Ricky Martin and Robert Gibson. No double drop kick from the rock and roll today. No double drop kick. Anderson. Oh, wait. Somebody start rocking for them. Now let's throw that back in. Here they go. They want to finish it.
So Robert Gibson has his ribs taped up. You guys take care of Ricky Morton, get him out of the ring. Now you're doubling down on Robert Gibson, who's all taped up. And of course, that is the Anderson MO. You take a body part and render it useless. And man, you guys are just rendering him as a human being useless. And all of a sudden the crowd goes wild.
Ricky Morton with a chair, a lethal weapon coming into the ring. Robert is hurt. The Andersons off.
So Morton jumps in the ring, clears house with a chair. You guys take a powder. But boy, there is a different sound to a Rock and Roll Express fan. Those high-pitched squeals, you can catch them a mile away. It's like they're the original Hardy Boys kind of, huh?
Oh, yeah. You know, the girls loved them. Kids loved them. Grandparents loved them. You know, everybody loved them. But I'm looking at the timeline, and something tells me going back in my head that those taped ribs were probably a byproduct of that bunkhouse match. Wouldn't you think?
It sounds like it makes sense to me. Let's take a listen. Jim Cornette has got the microphone with you guys, and you have some opinions.
Hey, come on. Hey, I told them, if anybody can do it, I hope you guys do. I got news for everybody. You're talking number one contenders. What we'll do, we'll just eliminate the competition and solve it that way. That's the way the Andersons do it, right there. I talk about actions speak louder than words. And we've told Rocky, we've told Morton, we've told Robert, stay out of our face. Rhodes is started.
So now it's broken down. You guys are brawling all over the set, and we're getting a wide shot so you can really see what it looks like with that backdrop. Davy Crockett's just trying to get out of the way. Now you're going through the doors. You're like through the corridor. It looks like you're about to go through the back door here. Just an old school brawl here. How were Ricky and Robert as dance partners for you and Ole in a situation like this?
It was kind of untested waters. Like I said, their expertise was in the ring, double teaming legally, setting one guy, setting the other guy up for an offensive move. I don't think brawling was their strong suit. But the thing about Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson is the one thing that got them over was the people knew they wouldn't quit.
Mm-hmm.
They'd get their ass kicked all over the place, but they would not quit. And that's what that one intangible that you have to have as a babyface in this industry if you're going to get over. I have to know as your fan that when things get tough, you are not going to quit. You may get beat, you may get screwed. You're not going to get beat or by giving up or tapping out or any of those things. You're going to stay in the fight.
We're not done. Let's hear from Ricky.
Only ARN Anderson, you come out here, buddy, and what you're trying to do, you're trying to put one of us out because you know that we're the next NWA World Tag Team Champions. But you're not going to get the job done. Too many people out here have been out here trying to make a big reputation for themselves at the expense of the Rock and Roll Express. But no more. We're not going to be no stepping stone for nobody. So you remember one thing, only ARN Anderson, when you step in the ring with the Rock and Roll Express, we're not coming to wrestle you, baby. We're going to play your own kind of game. That's right. You're big and you're bad. But you remember one thing, you can always be had. There's a lot of different ways to take care of you. If you can't hook a man one way, David, you can always do it another way. I'm talking about this right here. We got to use it. We got to use it. Because we're coming for you, baby. We are the next NWA World Tag Team Champions. And only ARN Anderson, you're going to go down by the hand of the Rock and Roll Express.
So Ricky Morton there getting fired up. I mean, he was not necessarily a promo veteran. Tony and I have been watching all of 1986, and you can see he starts to get more and more comfortable as the year goes on. And really, Crockett was almost an innovator in terms of the localized promo, and you had to do them with such frequency. I'm sure he got more comfortable, but buddy, it just comes through the screen there. I think that's one of the better promos I've ever heard from Ricky Morton. It was believable. It was great stuff.
100% believable. Had a different tone to it, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
It was like he pretty much just summed up what we talked about earlier. Hey, it wasn't being about great tag team moves and high flying stuff. He knew it was down to nut cutting time and it's time to fight. And he was up for the task. That's the guy, that's the part of Ricky and Robert that I needed to hear as a fan. And I believed it. He sounded because he believed it.
Yes. I love that. We believe it because he believed it, and he was feeling it when he's doing a promo on the TBS show that same weekend. This is August 9th. Let's take a listen to the Rock and Rolls here.
The program, the Rock and Roll Express, and the problems they have had with Ole and ARN Anderson.
That's right, Tony. It's on the very beginning of the show here. I'm trying to re-engineer again. Let me tell you something, Anderson. Yeah, y'all do hurt my back, but sooner or later, your days come. It's going to be sooner than you think, because we are the number one contenders for the NWA World Tag Team titles. Midnight Express before long, and NWA belts go right back around the waist of the Rock and Roll Express.
That's right, Tony. Like we told Jimmy Cornette before, I don't know where he went off to. But the Rock and Roll Express are going to be the next NWA World Tag Team champions. I know that Ole and ARN Anderson is standing right in front of us. And you can see right here, on the VCR, where they try to hurt us. But look right here, the only way to get back, brother, is to fight them just like they fight us. Sometimes people try to take kindness for a weakness. But then again, you got to do something about it, Tony. Just right here, the big and tough, bad Andersons. We showed them what they got right here. You want to get down to fight, brother, we'll bring it to you. Because it's not too much. Too much we can do to keep you from jumping on us. But there's a whole lot we can do to get you off. That's just exactly what's going to happen. So you remember one thing, Ole and ARN Anderson, it's between us and you for those World Tag Team belts. And I guarantee you, they're going to the Rock and Roll Express.
Ricky Morton, and we are coming right back.
Boy, how over were Ricky and Robert with that crowd? I mean, they hung on every word right there. And we're going to have that video up at the ARN Show on Twitter, but you saw they're both wearing Rock and Roll Express shirts. The one that Ricky was wearing is the one that you'll see pop up on eBay every now and again, pictures of their faces. But the one that Robert was wearing is an even more rare one. It's got the old bus from the Super Summer Sizzler tour. This past year, when I finally got to catch up with Mr. Crockett and we sat down and talked about everything that happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly over at adfreeshows.com. When we talked about 1986, he talked about how he didn't really understand what he had in the Rock and Roll Express, that their fandom and to the degree that they were popular with the fans caught him off guard. He even referenced a meet and greet that he lined up for them at a Hardee's, where he said the line and the crowd was unbelievable. Now, Hardee's, I guess if you're on the West Coast, maybe you don't know, it's a Carl's Jr. It's a fast food like biscuit and burger joint But the Rock and Roll Express, man, and Jim Crockett Promotions, they're Southern, that's hand in hand. But the idea that, as he explains it, the line went on and on and on. And by then he realized, wait, we've got something. But in hindsight, he thought maybe if he had a bigger staff, people who could help with more of the licensing opportunities and merch opportunities, that boy, Rock and Roll Express dolls or action figures or et cetera, would have been a license to print money. I don't know that there's ever been a tag team that was as hot as the Rock and Roll Express was in 1986. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I sure would agree with it. And, you know, I'm just thinking about the stars. Number one, I can't remember what town that was, but it was some little town like Sumter, South Carolina or something. It was not some big metropolis, and we're pulling into town, and I'm, you know, I forget who I was riding with, but it's like there was this traffic jam.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh God, it's a wreck. You know, we're going to be stuck here forever. And as we're inching along and stuff, and we're seeing people pull their car over and jump out of the car with their kids, and they're running towards this Hardee's. And man, there had to be, God almighty, there had to be probably 500 people wrapped around the building. And God knows how many others that were just trying to get there. Those guys were so hot. It was just ridiculous. And I don't think that I think David told a very, very true statement when he said they weren't prepared for it, because if the marketing machine would have been up and cranked up and pumping out, you know, it would have been printing money. And we, you know, Jim Crockett would not only still be in business, but be thriving. And think about, let's just say you marketed those guys and you broke tradition, and you truly, not Horsemen vitamins and a few jackets and a couple of shirts. What if you broke out the Four Horsemen and marketed them, you know, properly, the Midnight Express, and, you know, marketed those guys back in the day? That company would have went through the roof. That's just free money, because, you know, when you're filling up buildings, and buildings are three quarters full for the big ones and really full for the mid-sized ones, when you're doing that kind of business, and it's near capacity business, which the company would grow into, it's easy just to say, well, hell, the building's full. What the hell? We got to worry about, you know, marketing and all that. But man, it's just gravy. It's just gravy. And that's where WWF has stood alone, is their marketing machine. When you get a check sent to your house, it doesn't matter if it's for wrestling or for t-shirt sales.
That's exactly right.
As long as it's got some zeros on it, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, no doubt about that. And buddy, they were drawing money. Everywhere you went, it was the Rock and Roll Express show, including Asheville, North Carolina. It's a matinee show on August 10th. And check this out. This is unbelievable. There's a Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson concert. A concert. What do you remember about these Rock and Roll Express concerts? You had to be shaking your head like, we're doing what now?
Well, I'm sure they were rotten. I'm sure they had to have a backup band that was pretty fair, and their mics had to be turned way down low for that to fly. There are a lot of things. I love those guys, tremendous performers, tremendous athletes, but singers, not sure. I don't see Robert singing any Barry White anytime soon, put it that way.
I don't think we have to worry about that. When it came time for the actual in-ring action, they would be teaming up with Dick Murdoch to take on yourself, Ole, and Tully. How about Dick Murdoch rounding out their group? You know, he's doing a little pop by here for Jim Crockett Promotions. We would start to see him make more frequent television appearances. What do you remember about Ricky and Robert teaming up with Dick Murdoch?
Well, sometimes oil and water is a great mix. And Murdoch was he's as different from the Rock and Roll Express as you could be, but he was an entertainer. Dick Murdoch was as good as he wanted to be that day. If he wanted to go out and just, goof a little bit and have some fun, that's what he did. If he wanted to get out there and be serious, he was as good as anybody in the game, just depending on what his mood was that day. And being with those two guys and having those little girls shrieking and stuff he had to have a blast with that, I would think.
The best of 7 series is the other highlight through this whole process of the Great American Bash Tour. And then we even get to a spot here on that same show where Magnum gets to tie it up 3-3 when he pins Nikita. Of course, we know this is August. In October, the world changes for Jim Crockett Promotions and specifically Magnum TA. But the best of 7 series is still talked about to this day. As one of the boys, what'd you think of what these guys were doing? I mean, main eventing and a best of 7 concept. That's pretty fun to think about.
Loved it. Because I knew it was going to make them think, be creative. Let me tell you that, those two guys slugged it out pretty good in there. They're not a couple of artistes. There's no Ricky Steamboat in that picture. These guys were knocking the piss out of each other. And that kind of stuff appeals to the performer in me, and as long as guys aren't dropping each other on their head and risking getting, crippled or anything like that, I like a good solid match. And those guys, that's what it was on the card. It was a fist fight. And it was, at that time, Nikita was one hell of a physical specimen, probably 280 pounds. I don't know, big traps, jacked. Magnum, physical specimen, same thing. And what those guys lacked in seasoning at that time, they just brought it in physicality.
You get your turn at physicality. August 11th, Greenville, South Carolina. You're in singles action against Magnum TA. The next day, you're in Spartanburg, and you're working on top. It's going to be Magnum TA, Ricky and Robert taking on Tully, ARN, and Ole in an elimination match. On the 13th, you're back at the Dorton Arena. You're going to be working to a draw with Magnum TA. On the 15th, it's going to be Dusty, Magnum, Ricky, and Robert on one side, and the Horsemen on the other. This doesn't happen a lot because we know that, unfortunately, Magnum's accident is going to change everything. But let's just talk about that for a moment. Dusty, Magnum, Ricky, and Robert against the 4 Horsemen. Rick, ARN, Ole, Tully. Is this peak Jim Crockett Promotions here, do you think?
I can't imagine anything being more exciting than that match.
Yeah.
And breaking it down, because I'm sure we broke it down and took each one of those guys and turned them into superstars individually. And that was our formula. Get them in one at a time. Let the audience know that there was no runts in the bunch. These guys were all on equal footing, and their styles were so different. It was important to know what each guy did and how to go in there and make the most out of whichever one was in the ring at the time you were in the ring. It was a lot of thought went into it. I got to figure that crowd had to be insane. You had something for everybody in there between Dusty and Magnum and the rock and roll. Had to be awesome.
That's August 15th. No rest for the weary. We're back doing TV in Atlanta on August 16th. And of course, every weekend means that we're going to get some syndicated shows as well. But let's take a listen to the 605 show. It's an ARN and Ole promo here. This is August 16th.
Right now, just off an impressive win on the Chick Match of the Week, I want to bring in Ole and ARN Anderson. Guys, you're looking impressive. The team works there. Everything's there as usual.
Just a message today. I want to talk about one person and one person only, and I want to talk about a subject. Dusty Rhodes, you come out here crying the blues. You're talking about the American dream. You talk about it saying everybody, every human being across the face of the earth, if you will just be honest, work hard, be true to yourself, be true to your friends, the American dream can come true for you. Well, that makes me want to puke, Dusty Rhodes, because the American dream is dead for you. You had your one shot at greatness and you blew it. You're saying you were down for 3 seconds. Well, anybody can get down, Dusty Rhodes. Anybody's got to wrestle that is anybody with a little bit of injury. It's called a gut check. So when you come out here and you say the American dream is alive in everybody, it's something you can reach out and get. What we tell you, Dusty Rhodes, is to be successful, you take that public opinion that you hold so high and you flush it in the toilet. If you want to be successful in this world, you go out and you do like the 4 Horsemen do. You take what you want. You be a man, you be a man's man, and you take whatever you want. I wanted the world television title, I took it. Tony Blanchard wanted to be national champion, he took it. The Minnesota Wrecking Crew, well, that speaks for itself. Ric Flair decided his lifestyle was too much. He has to be world champion. It's something that's inbred. It's something's in his gut. He is the world champion. Now, you're talking about American dream. Let me finalize it by saying this. And this goes for everybody out there. Anybody wants to be anybody, don't sit around being nice. Don't sit around being honest. Don't sit there with your hands out. You want to be somebody, you get in the gym, have a little guts, have a little initiative, and you go out and take it, because that's exactly what we've done. And the funny part to us and the horrifying part to you is there's nothing any of you can do about it. That's enough said.
That's it. The Andersons, and we'll be back right after this.
So that's a couple times now where we've seen you guys, you and Ole, have interview time, but you do all the heavy lifting. I mean, Ole's there. Was that is that something that's discussed? Did he feel like, okay, I brought you along a little bit and you've got your feet underneath you. Now it's your turn, or is it just organic? It just happens.
One of us we would very seldom, sometimes if we knew we were going to be tight on time, we would say, hey, I'll just take it today, or you just take it today, or your match should take precedence, take the TV time. But it was one of us would start, and if they got on a roll, and I know I would do that with Ole out of respect, and plus I just wanted to sit and listen to what he was going to say. One guy would just run with it. And I don't think we decided, okay, I'll talk today, Ole, you next time or whatever. It was just one of those things. I started, I got in a rhythm. He felt it. To cut me off would have probably been, counterproductive maybe. So, but there really wasn't a game plan. We would just kind of bounce around, and one guy would step up and see where we're running tight on time. And okay, Rick, you need to get in here. Boom. Stuff like that. But I don't think it was ever a planned week to week thing. We would go in a certain order or anything like that.
I wanted to also ask you about the Omni Show that night. It was pretty common that whenever you would do these morning or matinee television tapings for TBS, you guys are going to have to hop on a plane somewhere and head somewhere to do a match. On this particular day, August 16th, you get to stay in town. You're at the Omni. What do you do on a day like that when you don't have to hustle and bustle and you're just in Atlanta? Does your routine allow any sort of fun, or do you just leave the television studio and go straight to the building?
No, we would probably have a room at the airport Marriott. We would get out of there. We would probably go have some lunch. Be honest with you, maybe take an hour and a half nap. Then there was a Gold's Gym that was out by the Atlanta airport at that time, Camp Creek Parkway, I think it was. We would run over there, get a quick workout, come back, shower, head down to the Omni. Still had to get that workout in. Was just important. It was self-preservation when you're wrestling literally every day. 86 was 336 days we wrestled. That's not times, that's days. Your coat of armor was getting in that gym and stretching out and sweating and working out, and staying strong, staying in shape. It was just part of your routine.
Let's talk about how hot the business was here too. Remember now, this is August 16th, 1986. The Great American Bash Tour is over. We've got Jim Crockett Promotions on this day in the Omni. We've also got Jim Crockett Promotions in the Civic Center in Philadelphia. Here's the card from each. In Atlanta, We had the Warlord defeating the Barbarian by DQ. Manny Fernandez is going to defeat Tejo Khan. Bill Dundee would pick up a win over Sam Houston. Buddy Landell would manage to defeat Todd Champion. Jimmy Valiant would be victorious over Paul Jones. Our main event is a 2 out of 3 falls match with the NWA World Champion Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. And right before they go out, it's a 6-man tag with Tully, Ole, and Arn in an elimination match against the Road Warriors and Paul Ellering. You didn't see a lot of this back then. Paul Ellering being part of the group in a 6-man tag. And it's not with JJ. It's with Arn, Ole, and Tully. Were you guys like drawing straws to see who got to work with Paul and who had to work with the roadies?
We had to be chasing Paul around that area like he owed us money.
I'm sure.
Let me get my hands on Ellering's ass. I'll at least get something in before I get killed.
That same day, remember now, that's the Omni Show. In Philadelphia, we've got Dick Murdoch and Steve Regal, Wahoo and the Baron, the Russians taking on Dutch Mantell and Bobby Jaggers, and then a 2 out of 3 falls match with Ricky and Robert, not only challenging, but beating the Midnight Express to win the titles. Fall number 1 is Gibson pinning Eaton. Fall number 2 is Condrey pinning Gibson. And fall number 3 is Morton pinning Condrey. And we've got new NWA World Tag Team Champions, but we're not done. We're going to have the best of 7. This is match number 7. And Magnum and Nikita go to a no contest. Bob Geigel was the special guest referee for the bout to make sure that it was everything the NWA wanted. But that was the main event. That's the same day, guys. It's unbelievable when you think about that you've got the Horsemen and the Road Warriors as a co-main event on one show. And then you've got the Midnights versus the Rock and Rolls in the co-main event of the other show. Dusty and Flair as the main event in Atlanta. Magnum and Nikita as the main event in Philly. This is maybe the greatest run of Jim Crockett's, creative juices or what have you. But it's interesting the way the shows draw. I assume when you talk about Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and the NWA World Title and the Road Warriors, well, in the Omni, buddy, they're going to have to squeeze people in there. They only draw 2,800 fans, 2,800 fans. Philadelphia that night, without Flair, without Dusty, without the Road Warriors, 7,000 fans for Magnum and Nikita and the Battle of the Expresses. It really is remarkable. That doesn't even feel like there's an A or a B town. And together, 9,800 fans saw Jim Crockett Promotions that day. It's something else, dude.
I do believe, and just as we read through this and we're going through the chronological order of the months and the years and stuff, I'm getting a feeling just from listening to you run it down, we ran the Omni way too much.
Yeah.
That was a big mistake. It was a once a month show when Ole, Jim Barnett were in charge. It should have stayed, probably even went to every couple of months to get the full benefit of it. You can run a town too much and you take all the money out of it. And, people are on a budget, they have lives. And I feel like just listening to that. But in those days, if you had 2 really big main events in a town, you could draw, that wouldn't do it. You can't do that now, but in those days, if you had, and especially if you had a 6-man or something, you had a lot of big stars in those 2 matches. It was possible to draw, really strong business, obviously, and split the crew up. And we had enough guys over that you could do that back then.
It really is remarkable. There's been a lot said. Some of the guys not really wanting to go on record because, well, it's not all niceties, but over the years, Ricky and Robert have done some interviews and Ron Garvin has certainly alluded to it, that they felt like maybe Dusty would see the results of a day like this, where him and Flair on top didn't even draw half of what the show that had the Rock and Rolls did. And the Rock and Rolls felt like that probably rubbed Dusty the wrong way. Do you remember that? And I'm not saying you participated in the conversations, but I am curious. Do you remember that sort of talk even being prevalent or whispered back then?
I would say that it was probably felt by a lot of people, but I would suggest that it would have been career suicide to voice it when you're talking about the booker and the man in charge and the man that is having tremendous success running the company. So that was a miss. How many hits did you have,
Right.
along the way? That's the problem with when you go back and you talk about history, you have to remember, okay, well, this house was the shits and let's blame whoever was on top. But you turn around and you go, oh yeah, well, how about during that? And I think it was this same summer you had during the Summer Sizzler tour, you had one of those little towns out there on the coast, Wilmington, an outdoor show. And they did $44,000. That's what was turned in. So, High Pockets Henry Marcus, I'm sure it was another at least 10 grand worth of 20 stuffed in his socks. And he was the local promoter for that. So, for each one that could have did better, should have did better, you had a plethora of towns that just did incredible. But I'm sure there was feelings of, yeah, hey, we outdrew those guys. We're more over than those guys. I mean, it's an ego business. And if you don't have an ego, you're probably not going to do well. And I'm sure that was all part of the thought process.
Let's keep it going and let's play a little bit of a promo from that same weekend. This is August 16th. And I think we've got the whole Horseman clan out here to talk about it.
Express, ladies and gentlemen, with me now, one of the most distinguished groups in wrestling, the Four Horsemen and James J. Dillon. And Ole, I know you got something to say.
Well, I'll tell you this. Everybody thought that the Four Horsemen were done. They thought that we couldn't do it again. Well, we're back on top. All Four Horsemen together. Tully, Flair, ARN, Ole, and the guy that plans the strategy, the brains behind it, J.J. Dillon. Dusty Rhodes, I made the prediction 1986 is a year that you go down, that we don't see you anymore. I guarantee that's going to come true. The chair on the leg, that's the beginning. We got another leg, 2 arms, and that big head of yours, and I guarantee, before the year is out, someplace, it might be Chicago, it might be Green Bay, it might be Minneapolis, it might be hometown, but someplace, we're going to get rid of Dusty Rhodes. Make book on it.
I'll tell you what. What are you doing flapping that around a little bit? Rick will step in here. ARN, Ole. The other day, we were down at Myrtle Beach taking a little day off. We chartered a plane down there, and the Horsemen were sitting around having maybe a little brewski, looking at a few ladies on the beach there at the Marlin Quay. Rick has a big condo there. And Rick, we went down, bought something, didn't we? Well, here's how it goes. The Four Horsemen take a lot of pride in being first class. Aside from the fact we're the greatest wrestlers alive, we're first class. We pay a lot of respect to James J. Dillon, our leader, our pal, our manager. And out of respect to James J. Dillon, the Four Horsemen all put 10 grand in together, $40,000. And Jim Dillon, this is yours from the Four Horsemen, guys. Here you go, my man. Oh.
I'll tell you, gentlemen, I wear this with pride every night. When I see the World's Championship belt, I know that each and every one of us wears a small part of it, the same as Mr. Blanchard with the national heavyweight title. Each of the Four Horsemen wears a small part of it. Diamonds are forever. The Four Horsemen are forever. Keep in mind.
Wish we had a half an hour, but we don't. See you next week on World Championship Wrestling.
What do you remember about that segment? It wound up as an extra on a WWE Horseman DVD back in the day. You guys presented JJ with what looked like a Rolex inspired pinky ring. So the sides of the ring looked like the old quote unquote presidential Rolex. It's actually a date, but the bracelet was very reminiscent. And then instead of a watch face, it was a series of diamonds, and it even replicated the Rolex bezel. It was a Horseman ring if there ever was one. What do you remember about that? Let my family save your family some cash. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket, but we will save you money. It's not a matter if, it's a matter of how much. SaveWithConrad.com. A little segment there.
Well, I don't even pop for a round of coffee. So the 10 grand that they say they got from me is bullshit. You think that would have flown at my house?
You think Ric Flair has ever stretched the truth about finances in a promo? I can't imagine that. How dare you, really?
That whole thing that you just witnessed was a industrial strength whopper.
Yes.
So that's what I remember about it. But James probably wanted to get himself a nice little pinky ring, so he got it, and we got the credit for giving it to him. I'll take that, as long as I ain't got to reach in my back pocket.
That's it's so fun to think about, you know, how we would stretch the truth a little bit and make some good TV. And you guys were doing some good TV. August 17th in Charlotte at the Coliseum, 11,000 plus on hand. It's a sellout to see Tully, Ole, and ARN take on Wahoo, Dick Murdoch, and Ron Garvin. On the 18th, you're back at the Norfolk Scope, and you're going on last. It's going to be Dusty, Magnum, Ricky, and Robert. By the way, now they're the NWA Tag Team Champions, and they're taking on Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, and Ole Anderson. 3 of the 4 of you holding singles titles, the world title, the national heavyweight championship, and the television title. So you've essentially got all the gold in the same match. It's that same matchup we talked about a minute ago, the Horsemen versus the super baby faces on the other side. This is just the golden era. The 18th, we're back in Greenville. You're going to be working with Dusty here to a double DQ. Then you're going to do a show on the 20th at the Indiana Fairgrounds Coliseum. It's Ole and Arn taking on Ron Garvin and Manny Fernandez. Originally, it was advertised as a singles match with you and Manny, but it becomes a tag team affair. We're at the Cincinnati Gardens on the 21st. Ricky and Robert are going to go to a draw with Ole and Arn. On the 22nd, you're working on top in Charleston, West Virginia. It's the Andersons versus the Rock and Rolls, and you guys pick up a win, but of course, it's non-title. On the 24th, it's a matinee show where we would see all the greats. We got Magnum, Dick Murdoch, Ricky, and Robert taking on Tully, JJ, Arn, and Ole. And then the main event that night is something a little different. It's Dusty versus Big Bubba in a steel cage match. And this 1986 is really a coming out year for Ray Traylor. We would first see him as a quote unquote enhancement talent on TV. But as the story goes, I believe he took a slingshot suplex from Tully Blanchard, and all of a sudden Dusty piqued his interest and thought, wow, okay, maybe we got something. He became the heavy, the enforcer, if you will, for Jim Cornette. And now, before you know it, he's main eventing in a cage match against Dusty Rhodes. How tickled was the real life Ray Traylor with this turn of events for 1986?
Well, I was so happy for Ray. Ray grew up about 30 miles from where I grew up, Rome. So different eras, obviously. I'm older than Ray. But he kind of came out of nowhere. But everybody that saw him, once he got a chance to perform, went, holy smoke, you got something there. Guys that size don't move as smoothly as that guy did in and out of the ring. And, he was quick. I don't know if he could run fast, but I know he was quick. And for what we do, that was more important. And he was smooth as silk, strong as an ox, had a great look. He fit perfectly with Cornette and what he had going on at that time.
On the 24th, it's Magnum, Murdoch, the Rock and Rolls taking on Tully, Arn, Ole, and JJ. And that is in Roanoke. On the 26th, we're doing a TV taping in Rock Hill, South Carolina, where we would see you pin Keith Patterson with a spine buster and a gourd buster. And then there's a dark match, which is Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, and the Rock and Rolls taking on Flair, Arn, Tully, and JJ. And then the Great Western Forum. This is something I want to talk about here. It's the debut at the venue. In case you're not familiar with the venue, that's Inglewood, California. So now, as a reminder, at this point, you've been on TBS, this Jim Crockett Promotions outfit, for about a year, a little more than a year at this point. And we're branded, not just in the Carolinas, not just in the South, not just in Georgia, but all over the country gets the Superstation, including California. So now you're going to make your first venture out there. And people are probably wondering, well, what do we put on top? Well, Dusty and Rick, of course. The Midnights are going to take on the Rock and Rolls. Magnum TA is going to be in there with Nikita. The Russians are going to be in there with the Road Warriors. And you're going to be working with Dick Murdoch in a 20-minute time limit draw in front of 10,000 people. What do you remember about your first trip west, your debut here at Inglewood, California, 10,000 fans on hand? You got to start to feel like, hey, man, this isn't like a local thing. This isn't a regional thing. We're freaking rock stars.
100% correct. Home of the Lakers.
Yeah.
Just say that, when you're a young, impressionable kid. Now I'm in my 20s. Okay. This is where the Lakers play. There's the Lakers locker room. I want to say a couple of the Lakers were even walking around backstage wanting to meet some of the wrestlers. It was a really cool setup in a lot of ways. Do you have the info on that card? Is that where the Road Warriors were in the scaffold match?
I don't believe that's a scaffold match.
We'll get to that at some other point. Then there is one, because there's an interesting story that goes along with it. But yeah, when you pull up in LA and you're walking around and you just get that movie star vibe. And I hadn't been to LA prior to that. It was a whole different deal for me. And, we took a little trip over to Rodale Drive and did a few things that the tourists do I was mesmerized. I'd read about it, heard about it, and now we're there, and had a couple hours in the afternoon. Let's just take the limo down Rodale Drive, which was really, really cool. And it was just one of those situations that we never get to enjoy a town, because it's usually fly in, check in if we're going to stay over, go work out, go to the arena, come back to the hotel and start it all over again. We don't have much time but for some reason, I guess because we picked up, some hours moving from east to west, we had a couple hours to kill. And I just remember that was really cool. And the audience, because it is the entertainment capital of the world, they were used to being entertained, and they were there. They knew they were going to have performances out of us. And it was just a great atmosphere, to be honest with you.
It's pretty crazy to think about, how quickly this has happened for the whole promotion. You're going to be back August 30th doing a TV taping in Atlanta. Later that night, you're going to be in Columbus, Georgia. That day, it'll be Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, ARN, Ole, all the big stars there. Also on the 30th, there's a show in Greensboro. So you're doing a triple shot, it seems, that day, with an early morning television taping, a matinee shot in Columbus, jump on the plane, get to Greensboro, and then we're doing another series of television tapings, this time August 31st. So as a reminder, we're taping on the 30th and the 31st. And then, of course, that night of the 31st, it's two more shows again. The Omni again, this time with Dusty and Big Bubba in a steel cage. But that night, Charlotte, North Carolina is where we would see Wahoo team with the Road Warriors to take on Tully, Ole, and Arn. Man, it feels like, even though the Great American Bash may be in the rearview mirror, you guys are hotter than ever, doing more shows than ever. I mean, double and triple shots in major venues too. The Omni, the Coliseum. Oof. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, because jet lag is a very real thing, my friend. And when you're just zipping out and zipping back, it's all stuff that really wears on you. You can't get proper food, and when you're jamming it up like that, it's literally you're living from one shower to the next. But when you're making money and you're young, and you're in ring shape, and that part of it is actually the easy part. The travel is what's the hard part. man, you just had to stop and pinch yourself and go, hey, man, that we are on the end of the lightning bolt, like Dusty used to say. And it just felt like it was, we weren't near where we were going, and everyone could feel that. We were heading somewhere special, and we were just on the build at this point.
Well, that's going to be a stopping point for us now. We're going to pick up where we left off next week. We'll be talking about September of 1986. And, well, things are going to be taking place, because it feels like once the Great American Bash is firmly in our rearview mirror, we start the march to Starrcade. And Starrcade was the granddaddy of them all. Of course, that's in November, but we've got to start telling some stories and sowing some seeds. And that's what we'll be doing next week. We hope in the meantime, you'll check us out over at adfreeshows.com. We've got all of our shows early and ad free. We also do lots of bonus events, like where you get to jump on a Zoom and interact with Arn Anderson in real life. He can see you, you can see him. You guys are having a conversation. Lots of great little bonus content there where we talk about some subjects and topics that we can't really do here on the show, but really it's more about the personal interaction. And a lot of these folks now that you're talking to on a monthly basis, Arn, you're becoming familiar with them. I mean, it really is part of the ad-free shows family, right?
Absolutely. And, man, it's a great bunch of people. I'm the biggest wrestling fan out there. And, you know, these guys and ladies are all huge wrestling fans, and it's nice just to get to know the person behind the voice. And, you know, we get to talk about whatever you want to talk about, whatever questions you want to ask. And, it's just a blast, and we appreciate the ad-free show family very, very much. And we want them to know how much we value them being a part of our family.
Check it out if you haven't already. It's adfreeshows.com. And don't forget, we're going to have some clips of what we've talked about here today over on Twitter at the ARN Show. And if you're looking to introduce maybe the wrestling fan in your life to some of what we're doing here, tell them about our YouTube. It's ARN Show on youtube.com. And until next week, he is at the ARN Show. I am at Hey, it's Conrad, and we are out of time. We'll see you back here next week talking about all things September 1986 on ARN.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.